It was a night as dark as the eyes of the brave Suliat warriors he praised in Childe Harold's pilgrimage. And on that boat to Missolonghi, Lord Byron knew that he was drawing closer, not only to revolutionary Greece, but also to an ominous prophecy. By the time the Greek war against the Ottoman Empire had begun, Byron, as Claire Clairmont portrayed him, was just a human tiger slaking his thirst for inflicting pain upon defenseless women. The poet desperately needed to reinvent his romantic persona and hide his vampire teeth under the collar of a commander-in-chief in Greece. In the very beginning of 1824, Byron arrived at Missolonghi as a fundraising celebrity from the London Greek Committee. There were no Turks in the town at that time, but he was spectacularly prepared for the welcoming ceremony under the pouring rain. All dressed up in a scarlet uniform and wearing a magnificent helmet of Homeric design to match, engraved on the inside with his family motto, Crede Byron, or Trust Byron. When night fell, Lucas, a 15-year-old Greek boy with whom Byron was in love, snuffed the candle out in his room. And there in the dark, Byron saw himself as a boy again in Aberdeen, little Georgie fancying himself as a general in command of armies. "You are predestined for glory," his Scottish mother would say when he was just 4 years old. But he already knew that almost all of his forebears, the monstrous Gordons and Byrons, had been damned. Now, feeling their madness coursing in his own veins, Byron had a premonition he would die in Greece. Even though he had his bodyguard, a group of more than 50 Suliotes, highly respected for their bravery by an already dead enemy, Ali Pasha of Ioannina. Besides that, he was 36 years old now, precisely the age of that stupefying prophecy he had been haunted by since 1801. At that time, his mother, Catherine Gordon, had consulted a distinguished fortune teller called Mrs. Williams. According to her prediction, her son would be twice married, the second time to a foreign woman. The two dangerous periods of his life would be his 27th year and his 37th year. In his 27th year, Byron and Annabel Milbank's marriage had indeed come to a bitter end. Fleeing from her in an exact replica of Napoleon's military carriage, and now at the age of 36, his Italian mistress Teresa Guiccioli and her family were one of the secret reasons he embarked on this perilous adventure. Sense is attached always in retrospect. In a letter to his confidant, Lady Blessington, Byron wrote, "When I tell you that I have a presentiment that I shall die in Greece, I hope it may be in action, for that would be a good finish to a very triste existence, and I have a horror of deathbed scenes. But as I have not been famous for my luck in life, most probably I shall not have more in the manner of my death, and that I may draw my last sigh not on the field of glory, but on the bed of disease. Crede Byron." In fact, Byron's grandfather, John, known to his shipmates as Mad Jack, was also famous for his bad luck. Captain John Byron could never set sail without a storm brewing. Parapsychologists posit that events in our lives could be caused psychokinetically. According to Professor Stephen Browdy, consistent bad luck or misfortune could be an external PK analogue to psychosomatic illness. one should perhaps explore the relationship between a person's misfortune and his or her self-image, and be prepared to see people as psychically disposing or arranging events to reinforce their self-image as victimized, cursed, or unworthy individuals. April 7th. Following his attempt to help the rival Greek leaders find common ground, Byron went riding under the pouring rain. He came back in an open boat. 2 hours later, he complained of fever and rheumatic pains. The rest of the events were a tragic recapitulation of the presentiment he had confessed to Lady Blessington. April 19th. On Easter Monday, the rain was pouring down so hard that the deathbed on which Byron was lying, delirious, resembled a boat clutched by the storm. At 6:15 p.m, his premonition, already a historical fact. Lord Byron was dead. In April, Lady Caroline Lamb, an outrageous woman, as Byron had once labelled her, had a waking vision without knowing anything about his fate. In the middle of the night, I fancied I saw Lord Byron. I screamed, jumped out of bed, and desired them to save me from him. He looked horrible and ground his teeth at me. He did not speak. A month later, a letter from her husband informed her of Lord Byron's death. Byron died at 36, entering his 37th year, exactly as the prophecy had predicted. But tragic coincidences and the repetition of death at the age of 36 are later seen as a pattern in Byron's family history. His daughter, Augusta Ada Byron, Countess of Lovelace, died at the age of 36. Elizabeth Medora Lee, born of Byron's incestuous affair with his half-sister Augusta, died at the age of 36 too. French psychogenealogist Anne Anslin Schutzberger defines this phenomenon as anniversary syndrome. I discovered family repetitions in the lineage of people suffering from non-genetically hereditary terminal illness. It is as though something which cannot be forgotten is passed down in the generations, a simple, unconscious, invisible family loyalty. Byron did not survive to see the acts of loyalty and heroism and the intense combats when Missolonghi was besieged again a year after this tragic event. Then death stalked the starving population, sucking blood from everyone, like the mosquitoes across the marshes. April 10th, 1826. The war generals Makris, Botaris, and the hero from the Battle of Klishova, Tsavelas, the latter two of Suliote ancestry like all the rest of the tribe who had dazzled Byron during his grand tour to the Orient at the age of 22, came to an agreement not to surrender, but to lead an exodus of the civilian population. Abandoned by the other Greek commanders, their plan was betrayed, and thousands of men, women, and children were enslaved or brutally slaughtered, decapitated, or pushed back to burn. These images and Byron's fate appealed to the imagination of Europe and reaped a whirlwind of subsequent battles for Greece. I do not lament, Byron had said on his deathbed, my wealth, my abilities I devoted to the Greek cause, and surely nothing dies, but something mourns.